Hi there, Sinead here. You're very welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Maybe if you could just let me know that you can hear me okay. So if you look at your control panel, on the right-hand side at the bottom, there's a thing there called chat. So I'm going to type in, can you hear me? And would you just give me a thumbs up? Can you hear me? Or a yes, just to say if you can hear okay, if the sound quality is okay. Great, so we're getting some yeses. Okay, so we've got a couple of yeses there. Yes, okay, great. So let's get started. You're very welcome. So the theme of this webinar is about deepening your practice with Gandha. So Gandha is an ancient tradition. It's been around for at least 5,000 years. It's not very well known. It's not widely documented. I went back to the source texts and extensively looked. It is referenced, but it's not that well known. So I'm sort of reintroducing this because it's a beautiful ancient tradition that's as relevant today, possibly even more so, and it's useful, really useful, just for deepening your practice, and you'll love it once you just step into it, throw yourself into it, you'll love it. So you're very welcome, and then so let us proceed. So first of all, who am I? So looking at the names there, I'm not sure how many of you have come across me before. You might have met me at a yoga festival, but just very briefly, who am I and how did I sort of come up to this point? And namaste. You're very welcome. It's the important bit. So Sinead Duffy is my name, and I'm a yoga teacher. I teach mindfulness, and I'm a therapist. So I'm putting those things together now. My background before all that was philosophy. Then I did a master's in human rights. So that's a huge part of my mission also, is just giving back and equality, and I feel that it all fits together. It all fits together. So and then I came to yoga through that. So I had previously done a lot of meditation, so I came to yoga, physical yoga, hatha yoga, after meditation. So I sort of did it the other way around. So that's how I got to yoga. I did my training in India, and it was when I was in India doing my teacher training that I had my herbs with me. Now I had them with me not really for meditative purposes, it was really for self-care. It's just the easiest way to take care of yourself, because lavender does about 1 billion things. So I had my usual stock of herbs with me, and I did Vipassana there, which is a super deep meditation. I don't know if you've ever come across it, but it's a really beautiful 10-day meditation, 10.5 hours a day seated meditation. So it's very deep. Even day 2 you're already in deep meditation. And I had my herbs with me there just for self-care, as I say, but there I really felt how they really worked. It's so much deeper than just a physical level. I really felt the mind-body connection, and how this was really the bridge to that, and the symbiotic connection, and even it felt a cellular connection, the interaction between the herbs and me. So that's really how I sort of rediscovered it, and so yeah, I felt it at an energetic, chemical, and even a cellular level. It was deep stuff. So I've been using aromatherapy oils and teaching for just over 10 years now. And I went from India to Africa, where I was teaching yoga, and then up to Ireland. I live in Ireland, based in Ireland, and now I'm going all around Europe teaching about Gandha. So I'm teaching in circles where I'm very at home and comfortable, yoga studios, yoga festivals, talking about the importance of Gandha in practice, how it's something that was lost, but it's just so wonderful, so easy and immediate, but deep and just so multi-layered, and in a way we're just really scratching the surface, I think, of what it can do, because I'm still very much learning. And then I'm also speaking in circles that are quite different, because this range that I developed is going really well, and I'm speaking in circles where they're not so much about mindfulness, more sort of retail areas, but it's quite nice, quite strange for me, but it's quite nice, because I'm talking about mindfulness and talking about the mind-body connection in circles that are a little bit out of my comfort zone, but that's great. I really feel like I'm bringing the message far and wide. So that's the story so far. Now about Gandha. So Gandha is Sanskrit for fragrance, and the use of fragrant substances to enhance the mind-body practice. So the mind-body connection, mind-body practices like yoga and meditation. So that's a little backwards. What is Ganda? Part of yoga for at least 4,000 years there. I think it's actually 5,000. You know, there's just early texts that reference it. You know, it's obviously sort of pre-text were ever written down. You can tell it's that old. So it's ancient, and what else? It's been in pretty much all major meditative traditions have used fragrance. So it's in India, yes, but actually all major meditative traditions have used Ganda, have used fragrance. So we'll talk a little more about why in a little while. So why Ganda? So what's the purpose of yoga? Flexibility, better posture, strength. So it does all this, yoga does all this, but there's side benefits. I'm sure you already know this already, but all of that is very much on the sidelines. The purpose of yoga really is to quiet the mind. You could say that in itself is just to serve another purpose, which is to connect us with the divine. But basically it's not obviously just about the physical, it's about quietening the mind. So more specifically, yoga quietens the frontal, more thinky part of the brain. So this is the front part, the neocortex, that's whirring, thinking, busy. So what yoga does is it quietens the thinking mind. That's why it makes people feel so good so quickly. That's why it makes people have this amazing sense of connectedness with all things, which is, you know, the most powerful, most beautiful feeling. So the reason it does that is because it quiets the thinking mind, and it opens up the back brain, the meditative brain. So it accesses and opens up the more intuitive and meditative back part of the brain, the limbic brain. So that's really what yoga's all about. You know, I was a little bit around more as well. But you know, basically quietens the mind, opens up the back brain, and that's what yoga and meditation are all about. So now a little diagram with the brain. So this is really why Ganda. So you can see the limbic brain, the old brain, is located at the back part of back here. Now the olfactory system is your sense of smell. And interestingly, the olfactory system is the only sense that has a direct connection with the limbic brain. The sense of smell, because of the way the brain developed. So the way the brain developed was over time. And at one stage in our development, we were pretty much just a giant nose. We were just, we had huge, the sense of smell takes up over half of our brain at one point in our development. Because it was the most important thing for survival. It helped us to differentiate between good food, bad food, potential danger, potential mates, all the basics that we needed to get on. The sense of smell looked after all of those. So the sense of smell was a huge part of our brain. It's one part of our development. It was over half the brain. So this is obviously the back part, because this is the primitive brain. So as the brain developed, other bits were added on, like as we stood up basically on two legs, the sight developed so that we could see further. All of those developed, but the brain developed from the back to the front. It still, interestingly, still does this in babies, in the gestation period. The evolution of a baby it mirrors the evolution that we had. So sense of smell, sense of sight, all of those developed, but they were all added on. But the sense of smell is the only one that has the direct connection, just because of its physical location, the direct connection with the more primal, more primitive, more meditative part of the brain. So because of that, the sense of smell goes straight to the back brain, straight to the meditative brain. It wakes up the meditative brain and gets you in the zone for yoga, meditation, and mindfulness. So this is exactly why the sense of smell has been used in every major meditative tradition. This is why, because meditators realize that it has this effect. You know, they wouldn't probably have known the brain geography, I don't know, but they would have sensed that this has this direct connection with the limbic brain. Now, the limbic brain governs so much. It governs your heart rate, your breath rate, actually governs your posture. It governs everything that's in any way relevant for yoga, but also really anything that's relevant for well-being. So it's highly underrated. As you'll know, the sense of smell is highly underrated by people, and this is really because we're rational people. Now we're in a rational age, and we've just got super rational. So the sense of smell isn't really rated, and you'll find this is even internalized, which is quite interesting. So if you you know, if you ask anybody, is the sense of smell important, they will say no. And even if you ask yourself, is the sense of smell important, your initial thinking will be, well, no, not really, because it's pre-rational, so it's not rated. But then if you talk to people about how, yeah, but you know, when you smell something, you know, it changes how you feel. Once you get into the realm of talking feelings, then people really connect with this wisdom. So if you are in a position that you are teaching this, which I hope you will be, the thing is to engage, to connect people, to get people in the realm of feeling rather than thinking, because this is our job as yogis, to get people out, to shake them out of the thinking state and get them into the feeling state, to bring them back to their bodies. So the sense of smell is the way to do it. But if you talk to them about the sense of smell and they're busy thinking, they'll be going, no, don't rate it, doesn't do anything. And one beautiful fact that I love is that this skepticism has been internalized, in that when you smell milk and it's gone off, you always smell it a second time. This is just so interesting to me. You always smell it a second time, but you knew it was gone off the first time, but you always smell it a second time. So this is the front brain, back brain divide, or the mind-body divide, as we more normally call it. And it's super interesting. So it's an internal battle, and I even feel it myself, this skepticism about the power of the oils sometimes. But then I just kind of inner smile, and it's the same thing that says maybe I won't do my yoga, you know, just this the front brain kind of trying to be in charge, and then just trying to have the mindfulness and awareness to say, this is what I need, this is going to work, because it always does. Yes, it's pre-rational. That's what makes it so awesome. So so that's Gandha, and I like to call it a back brain backstage pass, because that's what it is. It brings you straight back. It brings you straight back to the back brain, which governs everything really about how you feel. So that's Gandha. That's why Gandha, and that's the connection with yoga. So there's one other aspect of it. I mean, that's pretty deep, but there's one other aspect also that's pretty deep and pretty relevant for yoga. Another aspect of the sense of smell that's relevant for yoga. Smell brings you back, but not just in your head. So people say, and I love talking to people about smell. Talking to people about smell is super interesting, because smell is, because it's this old part of the brain, it's actually pre-linguistic. So if you ever try to describe smells, it's really difficult, because you're dealing with a part of the brain that's pre-linguistic. So it's really beautiful to see people try to explain them, like the yoga oils that I've produced. I love listening to people trying to explain how they make them feel, and just capture the smell in words, because it's really hard, because it's a pre-linguistic element. So smell brings you back. So people will say, yeah, that smell reminds me of something, which is kind of true, but in fact it's actually much deeper than that. The sense of smell is in a part of the brain that is actually atemporal. So it was there before we ever had a sense of time. So this is so powerful, because this is basically time travel. We can time travel. If you smell something that you associate with a particular thing, it's not that you go, oh yeah, that reminds me of something, and you'll know this experientially. Like if you say if you are on holidays, and if you're in some parts of the world, they've got that beautiful night flowering jasmine, which is beautiful, and people are quite aware of it because not that much flowers at night. So a night flowering jasmine is just beautiful, and you might smell it on the way home from the restaurant or on the way out or something, and you're very relaxed and you smell that night flowering jasmine, and you're happy. And then another time you might be, say, in a cold, dark, part of the world, and you might walk into a flower shop and you just smell that same smell. And it's not that you never go, wow, that really reminds me of my holiday, in a sort of rational way. It's a full body experience. You go, wow, that really, and you say, brings me back, or that really, and you feel it, because you're hitting a part of the brain that's atemporal, which means your brain actually thinks you're there again. So back on holidays. So you have a full body physiological reminder, but I mean it's a physiological state of that state that you were in on your holidays. So this is an enormous source of power. You can see how cool that can be. That's not used at the moment because it's pre-rational and we're too busy being rational, but you can see how powerful it is and how you can use that to bring yourself back to your practice and to teach your students to bring their practice into their everyday. No matter how skeptical they are, because we're all going to be busy being skeptical, it just works, and it overrides, because it's a huge part of the brain, so it overrides all that skepticism. You breathe, you smell it, and you feel that feeling again, especially with repeated use. If you keep using, one of my products, or a sandalwood, or anything like that, again and again and again, you're just deepening and deepening that pathway, and when you smell it, straight back, which is super powerful. So the sense of smell is actually a temporal. When we say it brings you back, it actually does. Yogandha recreates that mindful state, not just in your thoughts, but physiologically. So you can see how that's really powerful. So, for example, if you regularly go to a studio and they burn one particular smell, and you do yoga there, so you associate with that beautiful feeling of walking in and anticipating relaxation, and you have that again and again and again, you'll be building those pathways. And if you're out somewhere else and you smell that smell again, you're going to have the same feelings. You're going to smell it, you're going to be right back there, tension's going to drop from your shoulders, your body will recreate the physiological feelings you get when you enter that studio. So that's just a sense of smell, how it can bring you back to practice. So you can see and you can feel how powerful that is. So you know this already. That's the kind of cool thing. The coolest, most fun thing to teach is teaching people stuff that they already know. You're just opening it up in them. It's amazing, because you just see the light bulb moment, and they feel it and they embody that knowledge. And it's just, knowledge, probably wisdom is a more accurate term, because it's a full body awareness. So you know this already. So it's just really an opening up to it, and stepping into it, and so you'll already know this, I'm sure. Smell changes how you feel instantly. Smell transports you. So that's the olfactory system. That's what it's called, and that's why it's used in every major meditative tradition. So I am a meditative tradition, an ancient meditative tradition that doesn't use fragrance. The sense of smell is underrated, and that's because we're all so busy being rational now. But just to be aware of your own skepticism, because it's ever present. It's always there. It's always going to be there, because it's brain geography. But just to be aware of it and have an inner smile and just go with pre-rational, because I actually think this stuff is super important. It's not really just for us. I think that connecting with our own pre-rational, those survival instincts are super strong, and we really need them right now, because this bad. It's got us to the moon. It's got us so much, but it's also, you can feel, if you're teaching yoga, you can feel that it's also getting people into trouble now. They're so stressed, they're overthinking so much, and we've lost the connection with our survival to such an extent that we're currently endangering our own survival. We've brought the planet to the brink of destruction. So I think it's time for me, the sense of smell could be a tool for the quietening of the mind, the opening up of the back brain, this old survival instinct, and while being aware of our skepticism and the forward drive to be rational, just be aware to step back, quiet the mind, and connect with the pre-rational survival instinct, which is just this beautiful feeling of being connected with all things. And I think with us yogis, we have a real opportunity, because it's when you're in the yogic state, and I don't mean a deep state, just simply doing yoga, a little bit of meditation, and you connect with the herbs in that state. There's a beautiful it's like stepping into a stream of intuitive wisdom, and it just comes, and there's an element of trust in it, because we're skeptical and we're kind of going, what's this now? But just if you trust in it, you just have this beautiful intuition, and then it's sort of a reconnecting with nature, with our place in nature. It's sort of reimagining our position in nature and ourselves as elements of nature, which is such a beautiful, humbling, but homecoming kind of thing. So I think us as yogis to try to spread this word is really, really important. So an overview of how to use the practical. So you start, I tended to, when I started initially, to start post-asana, pre-shavasana. Post-asana, because people are out of their thinking minds, even, yourself, a couple of sun salutations, and they're already out of their thinking mind, and they're in their just more meditative state. So that's a good time to introduce it. And pre-shavasana, because there they've got quiet mind, and I would start oils-wise. I would possibly start with sandalwood and cedarwood. This guy here is Yogandha ground, which you may have come across. It's sandalwood, cedarwood, frankincense, myrrh, vetiver. There's more in there, but I think sandalwood's quite a nice one to start with, because people have that association already of yoga with sandalwood. They know that yogis have used sandalwood, maybe not sure why, but you know, the why isn't always important. It's nice to be able to deliver a little bit of the information, but again, always to do it in a feelings way rather than a, you know, thinking way, to deliver in a feelings way. So that's why post asana, when they've done their asana and before final relaxation, to pass it around is really nice. You can pass it around, you can you might want to apply it on them. They might like that, you know, with these little roller balls. So you can apply it directly here, which can be really nice. Again, you know, there might be people skeptical, but it's nice just to offer to do it for them, or let them do it themselves. You can kind of see, and this is an element of trust where you just venture into that area, and you'll get a sense of what the right thing to do is. And it will be received really well, because especially if you're post-asana, pre-shavasana, people are just in that beautiful state, and then they're going to lie down for shavasana, and it's quite nice to use the big ones as well for shavasana, because generally in class, I don't know, but you might get quite a lot of Vata students who love oil, so just to rub the big ones here for shavasana is so nice. So yeah, start with maybe a little bit, but you'll find after a while, as acceptance grows and as this connection with the herbs grows, you'll find that, you know, they're lying there wanting it all over. But so I usually tend to start post-asana, pre-shavasana, for you know, even a week or two, until there's sort of this connection, and the people will get this connection. And what you'll be watching is a beautiful connection between the people as beautiful, complex, chemical, natural, and the herbs, which are made of the same stuff. The people and the herbs are all made of the same stuff originally. So you'll be watching this beautiful interaction. It's a chemical dance, and it's absolutely beautiful to watch it. So so you'll be fostering that introduction. Then after a couple of weeks, when those introductions have been made, I would try pre-practice, because people will already have a sense of the oils, you know, and they'll be connecting with them on a deeper level, and they'll then even have a sense of what each one does for them, and they will get a sense of you know, which one they need at different times. So for me, another benefit of this is that it shortens the distance from them arriving physically in the class and from them arriving full body in the class. So they'll, you know, they arrive and they're late and traffic and just come from work and really shouldn't be here, have a million other things to do. But if they have, say, ground is a great one, because it's centering, and it's got vetiver, which is so rooting. It just brings them, and if they're week 3, week 4, they'll just associate, as soon as they have that smell, whoop, straight into the room. So it's a beautiful way to just bring them into the room. You know, they'll be there faster, which is quite nice. And it's a ritual. It's using ritual. You know, we don't use ritual enough these days to send the messaging that, you know, we're here now. It's time to let everything else go. We're here. So then, I move into using pre-practice, and then what oils to use. So obviously, there's a lot more information, you know, that I could deliver, but just very briefly, and again, just to get you on the path of just how beautiful and organic this all is. What plants do in nature, they do in your nature, because you are nature. So I just think that is such a beautiful concept, and it holds true completely, because so what the herbs do out in nature, they do in you, because you are nature, you know, and that's a beautiful thing for people to remember and to embody, and to have that connection. And this is what I think the future of our planet depends on, people realizing that. So the roots are grounding. So the roots, like vetiver. Vetiver is a deep-rooted Indian herb. It's so beautiful. There's a lot of it in Yogandha Relax. There's a lot of it. I use it quite a lot because I absolutely love it. It's very rooting and grounding. It's just a very common garden grass that's grown in India, and it's grown to stop erosion, to stop the sand from blowing away, to ground the earth. And that's what it does in us. It's grounding. So, you know, what it does out there, it does in here, because we're all the same stuff. So the roots are grounding. The trees are fortifying. which is beautiful. And you know, this is you know, for real, that's what they do. The leaves go straight to the lungs, because the leaves are the breathers of the trees, and they go straight to the lungs, which is, you know, our breathers, which is just this beautiful symbiosis that just happens. And speaking of trees, cedar wood is just a beautiful, beautiful herb that's been used in a lot of meditative traditions. It's the primary ingredient of Tibetan incense, and it's absolutely beautiful. And a lot of what really spurred me on with my mission here is that I was sitting cross-legged in my room at home. So I spent basically 3 years when my students asked me, you know, I was making up products on an ad hoc way for my students, you know, making things as they came to me and as I felt they were needed. But my students basically asked me to make them up properly, to make up a range. So that's what I did. But I took my time with it. I asked them for their sankalpa, their intention, what they wanted to manifest in their lives and in their well-being. And I spent 3 years seated, cross-legged, blending and meditating and blending, which was you know, in hindsight probably crazy, but it was just this thing that I did for 3 years and created these really, I think they're really beautiful blends. But during that process, I was just sitting there, and I smelt cedar wood. I had a little bottle of cedar wood, and I just smelt it, and you know, I wasn't thinking, because I was sort of in that meditative state. I just smelt it, and as I smelt it, my tail dropped and my crown lifted, and I just laughed, because I thought, you know, I spend all of my days trying to teach people to do that maneuver, and I just smelt this, and it just happened by itself. You know, it was the tree. I smelt this, and I did the tree, you know, a seeded tree, and that just got me really excited, because I thought, herbs can talk to us. Herbs can tell us how to get into postures much better, because yoga is pre-linguistic. You know, you'll know yourself if you're teaching. It's really hard to find the right words, and it was just a plant, a beautiful creation of a tree into this, you know, beautiful creation of a body communicating, and it just happened by itself. So that was one thing that really, you know, I thought, I've got to do this. I've got to bring this back. So so that's the trees are fortifying, and flowers are heady. The flowers are like clary sage. They're quite heady. They're beautiful. But so that's a lovely principle for you to be aware of, because again, I'm just wanting for you to own a wisdom that you already have. So if you have that principle that the roots are grounding, the trees are fortifying, the flowers are heady, and anything else that you can imagine, if you can visualize it in nature and what it does in nature, that's what it's going to do in your nature. And go with your gut. That would be another one that I would say, to go with your gut. Certain caveats, like I don't tend to use the Yogandha range in pregnancy. I don't use it. And what else is, you know, a few caveats, but really, the reason I made them up is to make them safe for people, you know, because if you're using pure essential oils, you got to be really careful there. You have to really know what you're doing. I wouldn't recommend that unless you really know what you're doing. So that's why I blended them for, well, that, and because I knew people would never be bothered. You know, I was trying to teach them to do it themselves, but people don't have time. Plus, it doesn't make sense from an ecological perspective for somebody to buy a bottle of sandalwood and use, you know, whatever amount. You know, they might only use 10%, and then plus to find ethically sourced sandalwood isn't very easy. So that's kind of why I took on that, to you know, to use it well and efficiently, and to make it easy for people to use. So it's pretty safe to use these. I just don't tend to use them in pregnancy, but generally, other than that, as long as you go with your gut, you'll be all right. Now I'm going to take you through the range just very briefly, because I don't know if you've all come across it. So this is what came out of this 3-year tradition of 3 years of meditating and blending. I didn't really know what was going to come out of it, because I just went into it to see what was going to happen. And but what came out was, interestingly, I only really noticed afterwards. The first 3 are they are the first 3 chakras, which I didn't plan at all, but it's grounding, balancing, and uplifting, which work in the first 3 chakras, which I didn't go in intending to do that, but I just sort of made it an organic meditative path, and this is what came out. So I've used herbs that have been used forever. So these are herbs that you can use. So if you're wanting to ground people, you would tend to use the sandalwoods, cedarwoods, frankincense, myrrh, what else? Cedar wood is actually a good one because it's sort of middle. It's both grounding, but it's quite fortifying as well. The vetiver is particularly good for grounding, but it also has an affinity with the top chakra, so it balances all the chakras. What else would I use to ground? Benzoin is a really nice one, and that's in Relax, Yogandha Relax. It's almost like vanilla. It's really beautiful and really heavy, and you can see when I'm blending Yogandha Relax, the vetiver and the benzoin, they come together, they meet like this. You can see them physically because they're quite dark, it's almost honey-like. They meet and they just boom straight to the bottom of the mixture because that's them, that's what they do. But they have such a beautiful connection together. So that's Yogandha Ground has both of those together, and it's a really beautiful meeting. Benzoin is, it sounds awful, I think it sounds like a petrol or something, but it's actually it's obviously 100% natural, like everything. It comes from Sumatra. They cut the trees and they gather it, and it's very vanilla-like. So grounding, that's grounding. Balancing, so there's a lot that will balance. Lavender is the really well-known balancer. In Yogandha Balance, I have quite an unusual combination actually. Jasmine and cypress is quite an unusual combination, but jasmine is like the quintessentially balancing oil. It's amazing. It's a contradiction in many ways. When I was starting to study about it, it just seemed to contradict. Like it's quintessentially female, but it's called the king of oils. So there's kind of two things, and also it's what Shiva wears. If you ever see Shiva, the dancing Shiva, and he's got a garland around, the white garland, that's jasmine, and it's because it's yin and yang. It's both super spiritual, but also like pretty hardcore aphrodisiac. So again, a lot of internal contradiction there, but that's not really, because it's all union, right? So that's Yogandha Balance. It's gorgeous, and then that's balance, which for hormonal balance is really good. And then Salute is the uplifting one. So I think you probably know already what you could use for uplifting. You can feel that so easily. You smell it and it's a nice little up. So the citruses, rosemary, especially the citruses, and they're lovely. So then the three pre-practice. So I call them pre-practice because it doesn't get in your hands. It's quite easy, because obviously if you're covering yourself in oil pre-practice, then you'd be sliding all around. Your down dog isn't so much fun if you've got oil all over your hands. So that's why I developed these for pre-practice and just for ease of use, and also for the bringing back, because it's so handy. They can use it pre-practice and then use it in their handbags or on their desks as a physical reminder of their practice to and then you'll find, particularly if there's ever moments when they're not thinking, they'll just grab it and put it on and just come back to their practice, because this wonderful thing of atemporality is they just have to put it on, smell it, and because it's dealing with an atemporal part of the body, you don't have to spend 10 minutes on it. You just smell it and you've got all this whole feeling of deep relaxation, and they're getting the full impact of their years of practice in that moment, which is beautiful. So the post-practice then are for all over, and these I'd invite you to use, you can use it on your students, but it's also really nice for them to use on themselves for a couple of things. Like I think it's quite nice to teach Abhyanga, if you can, teach a little bit of self-massage. So again, it's not, it's a very instinctive thing to teach, really. So the muscle soothe would be if you were ever doing a 2-day session, you'll find, the next morning, it depends how strong the yoga that you teach is, or that you practice. But day 2, you often wake up and you're kind of achy. Like I did a full month of Ashtanga a while ago, and I don't usually, my own practice would be much softer because I came from a meditative background. It would be really like moving meditation, but I probably let myself away with very gentle practice because of that. But I wanted to get super strong a little while ago, so I did a month of Ashtanga, and every morning, 5:30 to 7:30, and it was really intense, and I would not have made it through the first week without muscle soothes. And it was quite handy because it was so early I couldn't have a shower because it was too early. I would have woken everybody up and not been very popular. So instead of a shower, I just woke up, covered myself in muscle soothes, went down, and it's amazing. It really warms your muscles from the inside because it's 100% natural, fully absorbed into the body, into the muscles, into the belly of the muscles, and and it's a great little warmer upper. I'd get down there and I would feel absolutely already warmed up, and then at night I'd put it on again and wake up the next morning and feel fine, which was amazing, because that was, you know, that would not have happened if I didn't have Muscle Soothe. So Muscle Soothe is particularly good for if you're doing any strong practice. Now the herbs in there are this ginger, which obviously is just good for so many things as well. And it's another thing that I'd invite you to experiment with and try to teach, is that we tend to compartmentalize knowledge and wisdom. It's probably, I don't know if it's probably because we're rational, but like ginger, you know, people will use this and then you go, but it's ginger, you know what ginger is good for, and they'll know that ginger is also great for the belly, great for the throat, great for a million other things. So to try to open up that's, you know, it's not just good for the muscles, it's good for all of these other things, because it's 100% natural ginger. So if it'll do that, it'll also do these other things. But even, you know, if people aren't aware of that, the herbs will work. They'll work on all the other levels. There's a beautiful thing, which is, for me, pretty mind-blowing, the wisdom of the herb, that if I put a product on and you put a product on, say marjoram, which is a cousin of oregano, it'll do different things in each of our bodies depending on what our bodies need. So that's a really beautiful thing. And again, for sure, people are going to be skeptical about that, but it doesn't matter. You know, they put it on and the herbs will do that. And then Yogandha Detox, I find quite really useful. You know, coming up to January, everybody wants to detox. I don't know if January is the best time to detox, but it's clearing, cleansing, refreshing. So, but this one I would use particularly to teach Abhyanga, because the other ones, you know, might go on a less intimate part of the body. This one ideally is going on the kidneys and liver. So it's useful because two things. One, it gets people to know where their kidneys and liver are, which is really useful, that, you know, they won't know, probably won't know where they are physically located. So just to teach them where they are, and which is great for self-connection. And then the other thing is to get them to put their hands on themselves. So with this one, I would give a squirt, say in January or whenever people are up for detox. If you pull these over, then to get people, you know, squirt into people's hands and get them to put it on their core, show them where their kidneys and liver are, you know, just have that sense of these hands as beautiful healing tools, because they're such powerful tools. And, you know, you have the instinct in early parenthood to use them to heal and care for your children. But as soon as you're out of early parenthood, you kind of forget about them, and you really rarely use them on yourself as healing tools. But they're there, and they're amazing. So and self-massage for self-connection is really powerful. And a lot of where this came from for me was that I learned to teach baby massage. And in baby massage, you learn that massage isn't about, baby massage at least isn't about therapy. It's not therapeutic. It's really a bonding tool, a tool of connection, which is really powerful, fabulous for babies. It's just amazingly beautiful bonding. But whenever I heard that, I kind of thought, well, I teach yoga, and for sure the thing that makes my job so difficult is the lack of self-connection in people. So if massage is the tool of connection and bonding, then self-massage must be the tool of self-connection. So I just kind of came to that to myself, but then of course looked in the yogic texts, and there it all is. Abhyanga, it's an ancient yogic tradition of self-massage, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing for people to do, even if it's just a couple of minutes in the evening. It's a meditative practice that you might have luck with, because it's so hard to get people to practice at home. It's virtually impossible. But it might be that they can just, you know, apply Yogandha Relax, even just on their face. Yogandha Relax is amazing on the face, full frankincense, which is the best thing for skin. And they might be able to, you know, draw that out, even just, you know, lower arms, lower legs, feet, foot massage, just to have that little self-connection at night, the mindful practice. You'll find that it will help them just choose other healthy self-care practices as well. So so that's detox, which I use particularly for teaching self-massage. And then relax is it's my favorite of all six. It's really deep, it's really beautiful, and so that one, it's really not. That's the one the primary one I would use for Shavasana, because it just takes people into a deeper state of being. It just does that. So that's really nice. So that's my now for you for relaxation. You'll probably know the ones already, like lavender. But funny, some people don't like lavender, so I'd be a little bit cautious with it. Blue chamomile is beautiful. yeah, herbs that relax people can be quite a personal thing. What relaxes somebody might not relax another person. It's a very personal thing. So that is my oils, and just again about the products, that they are, you know, super ethical, post-recycled, no glue. The design is based on the Fibonacci sequence, which I think is a really beautiful thing, and it's very much fits with me because, like, my favorite yoga quote is, yoga exists in the world because everything is linked. I love that, and for me, that, you know, for me that's yoga, and for me that's how these products fit into yoga. They just fit seamlessly in. And for us yogis to be, you know, transmitting that energy and let them to be, you know, physical reminders of practice, and to be spreading it, to bringing it into their week, you know, you'll find that everything just fits into place. So the packaging really reflects that. I just think it's lovely. And 5% goes for Women International, because again, it's just a fitting, like ethical sourcing and giving back. It's all part of it. It's got to all fit. Now I do have some special offers. I'm not sure. I think some of you already have the products, but anyway, this is a special. So I have 3 special offers in total. So one of them is the beginning and the end, which is the pre-practice and the post-practice. And with that one, you have any one body oil and any one roller ball. So anyone pre-practice and anyone post-practice, and also samples. We've got the most gorgeous little samples. I'll show you. These, have you seen them? They're so cute. They're so cute. So we have some samples to give out as well. So I'm going to pop those in. So it'll give you a sense, because all the products are so different. So it's nice to just get a sense of the different ones. They have very different effects. So you get samples in there, and that price is €38. And it's got a value of nearly 50, so that's pretty good. And then Om Yom Om, I got that name from a testimonial. Beautiful. Naomi gives it beautiful. This was her feelings about the product, so I called that after that testimonial. That's the 3 pre-practice, which is quite nice, because the pre-practice are quite a lot about energy. The first, you know, this one's grounding, balancing, and uplifting. So it's quite nice to have those 3 different energetic possibilities at the beginning of a class. Now, it's really nice if you can also just to go with your gut, if you have the 3 of them, just to see which one you use. Like in aromatherapy, what we often do is you just don't think, you know, you don't think about what's the right thing to use here. You just let your hand move and just reach for the one that just kind of happens. So that's a beautiful thing to do. And often, you know, I've had situations where I've had one with me and I go, oh, this isn't the one that I would have chosen to use, but that's the one, I better use it. And then afterwards you find out that that was the perfect one for a reason that you couldn't have known about. But, you know, once you step into this this wisdom, you can just trust whatever you use, it will be the right one. You know, it's very humbling, but very connecting and very beautiful and very empowering for your class as well, because it's just a depth. So the Om Yom Om is the 3 rollerballs and any one body oil. So there you could go with relax if you wanted to, you know, focus on Shavasana, or detox if you want to focus on the Abhyanga, or muscle soothe if you want to focus on stronger postures. And the value of there is $94.80, and the price is $68. So that's another good deal. And then the full experience, if you haven't tried them, I think this is the best way to go, because then you have the whole range, and then you can really let your hand move, because you've got a lot of options, but you just, you know, go with your gut over which is the right one to use. So you have all 6 products that I've been through, and also a 3-day, oh, I forgot to say the 3-day foot supply of foot patches in the last package as well. Back to that. 3-day supply of detox foot patches, which are very cool, in that one and in the full experience. So, and you have the sample sizes, so you can give them to friends or students. And also the full experience is going to include something a little bit special, which is an intimate Q&A session with me. So what that's going to be is basically maybe a month or so after you've got all 6 products that you'll be using them in class. And when you do that, you will have questions and comments and hopefully sort of realizations, because, you know, that should be the case, that you'd be having gut feelings, and just to basically come back with those or any questions that you might have. So that's going to happen as well with if you buy the full experience here. and that has a value of 262, but it's only 108, so magic 108. So there are special offers, and then this is just how it works when you click through. That's the website, so I'm going to put, I can put that in the chat box if I can, maybe. Yeah, I'll do that at the end. Oh, there it is. Great. So so that's, if you just click through on that, that will come through. And then finally, just to say thank you and blessings to you all. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm going to take any questions that you have, so you just type them in the questions section or the chat section, whichever you prefer, and I will answer them. So yeah, just want to say thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing, and I hope you're going to take this awareness and this wisdom and to spread it, to bring it to your yoga students, because it gives a depth to practice and taps them into themselves as elements of nature, and it's just a beautiful depth it'll give to their everyday practice. So thank you so much. I'm going to check now if there's any questions or anything here. So questions. Oh, great. Okay, great. So I can see. Do you have one or two text references from ancient texts? I do actually, yes. Yeah, the ancient texts are interesting. They don't say a whole lot about it. It's just that they initially, the gods in the ancient texts, the gods used to always appear in a haze of fragrance, and then so that's how it first came. There was always just fragrance was hanging around the gods. They all smelt of awesome deep stuff, but then it became practice for the sadhus, for the worshippers, to smear fragrance on themselves to sort of bring themselves closer to God. So that's kind of how it evolved. So I have a few references. There's not a whole heap, but what I have is an ebook where I've kind of pulled those together, so I can send that to you. So thanks very much for that, Charlotte. Yeah, I'll send that to you, so I can email that out to you. Now, does anybody else have any other questions? So that's great to hear. You're very welcome. Okay, so I don't think there's any other questions. If you do have any other questions, so you can just email me. I'm sure I've put my, oops, is that right? Sorry. I'm not sure now which one you can see, but I have just I have my email address there, Sinead@yogandha.com, so that's my direct email address. That'll come directly to me. So if you just email that, then that will come straight to me. So that's it. So I have, yeah, I think that's it for now. So if you want to send me any questions or not, and anyway, I'll follow up with, I'll send the ebook to Charlotte. If anybody else would like the ebook, just let me know and I can send it out. And that's it for now. So thank you again for being here with me. Namaste.